Hey, what's up, dude?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Not much. Staying busy. I was getting ready for these dogs this week, then flying out to Iowa, and I will be back. What you got going on?
Well, actually, I'm pretty excited, to be honest. Got Carlos Ramirez, gonna attend his seminar and see if I can upgrade my decoy skills. So it's pretty exciting. And then it's definitely gonna be good to be back with the military working dog community. Yeah, so it's gonna be a week long of just getting bit up and hopefully showing up some young guys.
Oh yeah, I love it, man. Get out there and show them some moves.
Yeah, what moves I have left? Yeah.
Hey, don't pop
Oh
anything,
man.
bro. Shit. Hey, you
Yeah.
gotta hit them with the, this is how we used to do it, then go into it.
Oh my god. No, but I mean, that's one of the things I love about being in the military, man. It's like it pushes you for sure. And even though I'm
It's
not
cool.
like I'm not physically like there to outdo them, but I'm gonna try to anyway.
Yeah,
See what we can do.
we'll say that's definitely a Marine mentality, like physically pushing it, because physically pushing it was not part of the Air Force curriculum. Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, perks and curses, I guess, of each branch, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So, what topic are we getting into this week?
So,
Let me free your mind, your mind, your mind. Let me free your mind, your mind, your mind. Let me free.
welcome to Working Dogs and Whiskey. I'm Sean White. I'm here with my co-host Jonathan Moses, where we have open and honest conversations as we dive into the world of dog training.
Week.
So, the way I figure it, our audience is probably confused a little bit because we've gotten everybody's individual story. We got me, my background with the military, master dog trainer or whatever within the DOD and all that good stuff. And then we got you going from Petco to owning your own business and stuff like that. So I think we need to merge the stories on where do we align, because we're coming from opposite worlds and it just doesn't add up. So we're gonna start off with how we got into it, and then hopefully by the end of this, if we don't go on too many tangents, we'll be able to summarize how you and I got to work together.
All right. I like it. Okay. So, where do we start? So, we had just opened up the first building in Beaufort in April of 2022. Yeah, 2020. Was it 21 or 22? I believe it was 22.
22.
Yeah.
Because I met
so-
you in like July of 22. So it would have been 22.
Okay, yeah. So April of 22, we had just opened up that building. We still do it every Wednesday night. We have bite night. Sport club members, police, military, fucking enthusiasts, whoever wants to come out, it's welcome to everybody. And we just work dogs all night. So we're sitting there. We've got a couple of dogs that we're working as a company, some other people showing up. And we had bought a dog from a guy named Kimber. Or the dog's name was Kimber. A guy named Lindsay with Knockout Dog Training.
There we go. There's the whiskey coming in.
Yeah. And Lindsay called. He said, "Hey, I got a boy in Beaufort. He's been there for a little bit, wanting to find some good dog people to get around, and I referred him to you." And I said, "Yeah, just send him on down." And Sean walks in. We're having bite night, and I hit him with the famous question he's probably been asked 100 times. since since meeting me, which is, hey, where's your dog at? Go get your dog. Let's see what you can do. I'll kind of let you elaborate from there.
Yeah, so with that, turns out I didn't I had a dog, but it was a personal dog, like a pet. It was more for my ex-wife to get into dogs or be accepting of dogs so I could get a working dog in my household. But anyways, but yeah, so we ended up meeting up through Lindsay, but I do want to rewind it and go back. So what got you into purchasing Kimber? Like, you're doing Petco, you migrate. How did you get into owning your own business? Like, let's talk about that.
Okay, so if we go back a little bit, as far as owning my own business, just started working dogs on a larger scale with pet dogs, and gradually went from a couple of pet dogs in my house to transporting dogs to owning a facility in Beaufort. As it continued to pick up, met up with a business partner. We ended up being 2 locations in that area. We're down to 1 now because we were renting the other and we purchased the one. But as we were owning that place, or as we were working those pet dogs, the real passion is through the working dogs, whether it's sport, police, military, personal protection. So the way we ended up with a working dog named Kimber is we got him as a PEP prospect, which is personal protection, or as a police dog prospect. So he's just a green Malinois, not a lot of training. He was just wide open, nice dog, ton of drive. And we were just looking for what's going to be the best fit for him. And the cool part about that dog was he really could have went anywhere. No problems. He had great hunt drive, great nerve. He was social. He bit like an alligator. He could turn it on and off. Really cool dog. But that's how we ended up with Kimber at the business.
Right on. So pretty much your thought was to kind of span the business a little bit into personal protection or police dog training, and then simultaneously still doing the pet dog thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're doing both. The working dog stuff, like I said, that's always going to be more of a passion project. At least for us, the pet dogs make us the money. That's just how it is. So there's more pet dogs and working dogs out there, but we like to get into the working dogs because it's something we really enjoy. It pushes you as a trainer. It's more fun. A lot more personal gratification out of it. So we did it as a business opportunity, but also as like something to reward ourselves with. You know, that's why we originally got into it, was because we all loved working dogs.
All right. So only because I know this story a little bit personally, dude, you got to elaborate about, we'll say your business partner. How did that go when you trained his dogs? And I only didn't bring it up because that shit trips me out, dude. I'm like, goodness.
So Frank, I sold him he had a dog named Evie, but Monty was like his first serious working dog. So it was out of a litter I had. Sold him the dog, and about 15 months later, he hit me up because I offered discounted training to everyone that bought a puppy out that litter. And he goes, hey, dogs are just high drive working dogs. They're menaces to live with. They're just completely wide open, unchecked. So he said, hey, can I send them to you for training? If this goes well, let's open a training facility, down in Beaufort. I was all right, let's go for it. He sent them down both of them down for a 30-day off leash. And within a week of him getting the dogs back, even before he got the dogs back, he came down to visit. And he was like, all right, I need you to move your entire family up here. And let's open up a training company in the Beaufort area. Which, of course, I was like, yeah, great, let's do it. Moved my whole family 6 months after buying a house. And we started Low Country Canine. So we got the ball rolling that way. He still got Monty and Evie, great dogs. He's actually got 6 more dogs on top of that now. If that
Holy
tells you he
shit.
caught the working dog bug, yeah, it's addicting. That's for damn sure. But yeah, he got into that. And like I said, the working dogs are something we do for us. The pet dogs are what run the business and kind of fund
Right.
everything. So naturally, we kind of expand some of that into the business side of things with dogs like Kimber. We've done Dexter, Leo, Boston, Nike, all working dogs we've bought through the company, either found homes for or sold. So it's like a side hustle for the business. It's not something we count on for income, but it's something we really enjoy.
Okay. So like you mentioned earlier, more of a passion project, I guess.
Yeah.
Fuck it, man. We sound more like we're interviewing each other again, and that's not the vibe that we're going for. But
Yeah.
nah, dude, tell me the fucking story again about Frank though. About what he did
Oh, God.
with Monty and Evie. So you try. I'm gonna give some background so we can get some context. We'll roll back into our little routine.
Yeah.
But dude, this shit. You told me this story. All right, full disclosure. You told me this story to understand like what to expect from clients and how to push the envelope when you're training dogs, because it's something I didn't experience in the military, and I know going like real deep into it with you as far as the pet side of things. That story, I was like, there's no fucking way that really happened. But
Yeah. So you tell your clients all the same thing, especially on the pet side of things. You're like, hey, gradually get into it, or hey, work your dog, build them up, build rapport with the commands, some consistency first with correction and reward. So, like, don't take your dog the first time it gets home and be like, oh, I haven't practiced any of this. And my analogy is always, if you're going to go out for the first time with your dog after training, don't go to Lowe's on a sunny Saturday afternoon when it's going to be super busy. Go on a Tuesday evening with a little bit of rain and make sure you feel comfortable without any distractions first. And it's essentially what I told Frank, right? It's like, hey, I'm just finishing these dogs up. They're just coming back to you. Make sure you feel comfortable first before you go anywhere. And he gave me the same answer every pet client gives you. Oh, yeah, I got you. Within 24 hours, I had a video of the 2 dogs in a downstay at the farmer's market, with a bunch of strangers walking around him. He's way off in the distance. There's dogs going by. There's people going by. One of them was dog reactive.
yeah, I was about to say, wasn't Evie like fucking dog reactive, like about to kill dogs?
Yeah, he's dog reactive. And I'm like, oh my God. Next video I get, he's leaving the dogs across the park and recalling them to heel. He's in a store they've never been to before. He's got them in downstays, throwing tennis balls around with the clients walking in and out. And then the the cherry on top, he sends me a video of Evie in a downstay at the dog park with another dog walking up to her and sniffing her. And she's just in the down. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
the one that was trying to kill dogs before.
I'm like, that was not a gradual introduction. Like, oh man, but that is
so. If we have clients or potential clients listening, please, this is a classic example of like our viewpoint of what you do. It's not in judgment. I get the excitement of like my dog's trained and want to see how well it's trained, but it happens so routinely, man. Like not to that degree. I haven't experienced it working with you and working for the company, but I sympathize with what you're saying, and it's like, guys, just build up and listen to the information that we're giving you.
Yeah, that was crazy, and of course, everyone does it. You send a dog home, and they immediately go like, "Oh, how much can the dog do?" And they're testing the training, and I get it. You want to make sure the training's going well and like it's doing everything you want. But make sure you feel comfortable doing it first before you just slap the dog down in the busiest thing you can think of. But,
I'll challenge you on that one. I would say not what you feel comfortable with. Make sure the dog
you're right.
is like ready for the challenge. and gradually build those blocks up because,
Yeah.
I feel comfortable doing whatever, most things with my dog, but I have to read my dog and make sure that it's actually ready for what I'm about to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
dude, it's fucking amazing. People just full send. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. No questions asked. Videos blew my mind. I still go back and watch them sometimes. I'm like, man, I'm glad that worked out.
but the dogs did good.
Yeah, they did great. They killed it. Didn't even move or
That's
even think about
I
getting
think
up.
so. What do you think about that? Like, I know we have a script. Fuck it. What do you think about that though? Like, because I don't know. For me, from what I've seen on like the more mild things or whatever, it's like, I tell the same scenario, like train the dog, do right by the dog and all that, proof it to a degree, and then I tell the owners, like, guys, put the dog on a place command or whatever. And place for us is defined as being on a cot or a specific item, if you will, to sit or lay down on. But anyways, but you tell them to like gradually do that, like do that for like 5 minutes, let them off, and then do it for like maybe 10 minutes or depending on how the training goes or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm gonna use that one specifically, but relentlessly get message from clients. Oh, fucking, this dog's been on the cot for 20 minutes. And I'm like, who told you to do that? Like, it's like, no one said to do that. But, so it's a phenomenon, but, that people go through when they get their dogs. And I straddle that line, man, of like, is it a test of like my training? Because I had a guy that deliberately did that, like intentional. Actually, I had two people do it, and it was very intentional. You could tell by the way that they did it, but and the training held up, rightfully so. But and then I think a side of it though that I straddle is like they genuinely don't understand the process, and that's one thing I've been like really reviewing on. How do I articulate that a little bit better for clients to understand? Like, it's not about testing your money. It's about building the dog up for success. And that's what I look at. And I have to do a better job of articulating that. That's, the 5 minutes I'm telling you to put it on place and let it be a dog is training is continuous. It's not a magic shop or a factory or something. Automatically your dog is just flattened out. He's trained. He'll do anything you say. And we struggle with that on the military side of things. You get dogs, imported, as I mentioned before, from Lackland. We train them. They have like a waiting period as they're getting their itineraries ready to figure out what base they're going to go to. So there's a lapse in time, and we do proficiency training, but obviously it's not as extensive as what they went through when they went through their initial training. So almost the same ideals or same concept is that, dog goes to a base, place it's never been before, and what are these handlers doing? They're kind of like, oh, let's try him out on a bite and see if he lets go. Like that's, or at least operationally, that was the common trend for me. And then, but the clients do the same thing. How long can I put this dog in a place? Or in your instance with Frank, fucking full send. He wanted to see everything. Yeah, he let a dog almost kiss Evie, and it's like, what is going on here? But so the whole point of that is responsible ownership is something that I think needs to be projected a little bit more as we do go homes. Not just you as a company, I'm saying as dog trainers, because I've talked to multiple dog trainers that do it out their house professionally, do great, amazing work, and I think that's a missing link is responsible ownership. When you send that pet dog back, it's like, hey, you have to build with the dog and emphasize training is continuous.
Yeah. I think that's also where, as dog trainers, we say the term a lot. successful approximation. Same thing with the dog coming back, right? They may know the behaviors in a certain context. They may have a much firmer grasp on what to do. And we install a lot of commands and corrections and cues into dogs. That way, it's easier to kind of default to for the dog. But owners need to understand they have to build that picture, that relationship, that reward and punishment history with the dog. The dog needs to know they can follow through, and there's an opportunity for reward, and there's also a chance for correction for stepping out of line, where a lot of them don't, right? They go back, and what do they say? Like, oh, no, I never used the prong. Or I think where we can also help out, and something we've been talking about a lot more, showing them videos throughout the process more often, like the actual steps leading up to it. Because I think military, at least from what I've seen on the military side of things and the pet dog side of things, there needs to be gradual steps into it. You know, how to warm the dog up, how to work them, how to get them back to that point. Because there's kind of a lapse, right? So, successful approximation, man. Just build that picture back up. Even if the dog's done it before in a different context, why rush it? And then you end up with a bad result, right? You rush it instead of baby stepping, showing them the pictures, making sure they have thorough understanding in that setting, as opposed to just full sending it. I mean, if that dog had attacked Evie that day, or she attacked it, you kiss that reactivity training like goodbye, right? So why not take the chance? And yeah, it worked out in that instance. But if we could have just dialed it back and said, hey, let's start with dogs around us first on leash. Okay, now dogs we know. Dogs who are calm, collected. Okay, now we can start getting to dogs we don't know and slightly less controlled variables. But you mitigate risk at that point.
No, for sure. And you're exactly right, man. Like, I agree 100%. Like, you have to approximate the dog into things. I think a lot to do with it, and I want to know your thoughts on it, is like the excitement, the adrenaline rush that goes into the brain. I'm gonna try to ease my way into I'm a big nerd for psychology and stuff like that. Like, I'm actually going to school for behavioral science and stuff. But I think the initial rush of, like, I have my dog back, you know, I have all this, and he has all these new we'll say features, you know, like,
Yeah.
I can tell him to sit and he actually does it, or I have a way to communicate him, if that's through the prong collar or whatever, you know, pressure-based system or some form of communication, electronic collar, what have you. And I have a new way to communicate with this dog effectively as, you know, low country canine, not to say that they're perfect, but like, we do a good job of training dogs. And it reflects through the reviews and everything else. But I think a lot that attributes to it is that, like, excitement, that dopamine rush of, oh man, I got him back, and now he's going to behave. He's listening. And I think a focal point, one thing that I tried to do with my go homes, and a go home for us is like a one-on-one. The dog does a board and train, stays for whatever amount of days, 10, 20, 30, up to 30 days with us, and works with the trainer one-on-one. And for me personally, one thing that I've learned is to re-emphasize scenarios that they're going to encounter. Like, try to predict in a way, like, hey, you know, like, you taught me this, you know, the dog's done during the go home, like 20 minutes of essentially demonstration and practical application between me demonstrating the dog, the capabilities that it was taught, what they paid for, and then instructing them on the application of how to, you know, correct the dog, like you said, when necessary, or how to even reward the dog. To be honest, let's start there. You know, this probably should have been focal point. And communicating that is a challenge. But what I'm getting at is that it should be emphasized, like, hey, when you go back into your environment, this training can transfer over, but right now it's contextual, if we're
Yeah.
being honest, because the dog has spent time with the facility. And yeah, we've taken him in environments that he may or may not seen, and we put, depending on the dog and the situation, may have put rules on it or whatever, or have a positive reinforcement history that's been introduced to the dog that it's never conceived before. And so, but either way, the contextual part, as we take it through different environments, which I do like that you do that. But the contextual part of that situation is that the dog is working with me. It's not with mom. It's not with dad. It's not with little Johnny or whatever the case may be, even though we're taking it through multiple environments. So,
Yeah. I feel like another
I,
thing to take into consideration with that
Mhm.
is a lot of things I'll tell people during the go home. But one of the big ones is when the dogs come into the kennel, one, they're in a new environment. They're not sure how anything works at that point. I can instill a lot of new rules. Versus when they go home or the mom and dad come back into the picture, the owners, whatever you want to call them, there's a lot of context of doing certain behaviors and either being rewarded or punished for it. And that can be a strong reinforcement for the dog. They're like, hey, I've been with you 3, 4, 5 years and you've never corrected me for this, or it always got me my way. I was always able to access what I wanted. And then when they come back into the picture, we always say it's the one thing we can't recreate. We can throw them in all these different environments and settings. We cannot recreate the history they have with their owner. It just doesn't work that way. But we have to take that into consideration. How consistent am I going to have to be if for 4 years, every time my dog jumped on me, I gave him attention and started petting him, right? And then during the go home, I say, hey, he hasn't jumped on me once, or during the training, he hasn't jumped on me once. He's been very consistent, but I've never rewarded him for that. There's no reward history there for him to think that might work. Versus you step back into the picture and he goes, oh, for the last 3 years, this has been fine. I think that's a pretty strong part to consider too. We always think about, okay, what do I need to do to reward the dog? But what have you been doing prior to training that's been heavily reinforced?
No, for sure, man. And that's, there's a lot there, and we'll chuck it up. We need to do a separate episode just on that, like trainers go home, clients, that sort of arena. But let's. I'm gonna try to get us back on track, or on track rather. There it goes. The whiskey got me. But no, getting back on track, dude. Like so you're doing. We'll capture or recapture what's been going on. So you meet essentially an investor, right?
Yeah.
For the company to help get funding going. That's I think, a critical part of the developmental stages of going into a dog business. So you got somebody that can help fund, get a facility for you, all that. You move on your own. Well, you have your wife. Dude, oh man, there's so much to this story.
There's a lot.
All right, we'll touch on it later.
Yeah.
Let's just. I'll condense it. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'll just condense it for now. But that is something that I do want to talk about, the family dynamics of business, and doing that. So yeah, you just made a face. Yeah, dude. We've paid some penalties on this.
Yeah,
but
we have.
Oh god, my ex-wife is probably pissed. I haven't even told her I'm doing a podcast on dogs. But anyways, ex-wife should be enough to know that I've paid some dues for this. But going back into John's scenario, so he's trained a dog for an investor. Now, guy moves you down to Beaufort, South Carolina. Meanwhile, he's dealing with your firstborn son, my dog Mason, my man, and which is your son, obviously. But anyways, and he had a particular condition, life-threatening condition, and so he's dealing with that. Obviously your wife is on edge. got all that playing in the background, and then now you're building your business, literally like in the facility. We will emphasize we'll make some time for that
Yeah.
episode. I'm not trying to take away, but I want to get back on track. So
Yeah.
So you mentioned your first working dog that you purchased, which was Kimber. Now, was Kimber always Kimber?
Yeah, what was his name? I think his name was Mal-O. Like
Yeah, it was
M-A.
like Milo. It was like
Mm-mm.
Milo. Milo?
Yeah,
No?
I think it was literally Mal-O. Like
Was it? It was something else
M-A-L-O.
because I remember, and now we're getting into the whole topic of the story. So for people still listening, thank you. But no, when I met you, yeah, you purchased him from Lindsay, and then I came on. I'm looking for this dog, Milo. Like all I was told was that this dog doesn't let go. He's got to drive through the roof, and I'm like, all right, kind of sounds up my alley, like
Yeah.
I fuck with it. And then, not that I'm gonna do anything aversive, quite the contrary, actually. But so yeah, whatever his name was. But how'd you come up with Kimber?
We were thinking of different guns. Like, thinking of different guns to name him after. Like, nah, this dude looks pretty like sleek. He looks good. He's powerful. Like, let's we just started spouting off gun companies. We're like, or gun names. We're like, Kimber. We're like, Kimber sounds good.
All right,
Yeah,
so we got
nothing
Kimber
crazy.
out of a gun. But so I remember how I recall it anyway, and correct me if I'm wrong. So we have a mutual friend at this point now. He purchased a dog from a guy that I know, and I know Lindsay through Lackland. We initially started out, we didn't have the best history. We were on a team training dogs, and I disagreed a lot with how he operated and trained dogs. And again, there's nothing crazy going on, like nothing abusive or anything. It was just like, it just wasn't my speed. Everybody has their way of training. And I remember just being, we got into one argument, and this is where I actually gained some respect because I was outside my my limits. Like I definitely should not have talked to him. He outranked me number one for the military environment, and then but we had a big disagreement. And long story short, probably a few months later, he ended up coming back to me and helped me with something, not dog training related, but like just mentorship, like advice in life and stuff like that. And it kind of threw me off. I was like, fuck, man. Like, this is the same guy that I just disrespected like a couple months ago. And that was a big indicator for me. And he told me, he was like, that's stuff that men do, and he kind of put me in my place in that aspect. Like, you're basically, essentially, he told me I was fucking immature. So, and he understood. So let's just not beat around the bush. That's not me. But but I appreciate that. So that's when I got a respect for him. So and we actually grew to have an understanding about even training dogs and stuff. But anyway, so now he ventures out and he's doing his thing outside the military as far as getting a breeding program, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But he sells you a dog somehow. Y'all get in contact. How did y'all get in contact, by the way? How did that sale transpire?
So it all started because, there's not a lot of places. I guess they had to go out of town. And I think he had 4 mouths with him. And, of course, they all bite. And, they're mouths. They're working Malinois. Like, they've got temperaments. Let's just leave it at that. And no one else would take them. And a buddy of mine, Trey Muse, who they were training with at the time, Said,
Okay.
hey, these guys open the kennel 45 minutes from here. You can call and see if they will make space because I know he's a working dog guy. We weren't going to turn away. We're like, yeah, bring your crates, bring your dogs. So he shows up with them. They're out of town, and then he just mentions, he goes, yeah, the dog Kimber or Mallow that's in there right now, he's actually for sale if you want to take a look at him. And I pulled him out of the kennel. I'm testing him. I'm like, man, this is a really nice dog. I took him downtown just for a walk. I actually got ambushed by a parade of like middle school age kids. I guess they're on a field trip. I turned the corner and I'm surrounded by like 50 kids. He walked through them, never even flinched. I took him through all these different environments downtown, on top of stuff, over stuff, around people, and he was solid. I'm actually sitting on a park bench with him right at the end of everything, and an old lady surprises me and kisses him on the mouth and goes, "That's such a sweet dog." And my mouth just dropped open. I'm like, oh my God, thank God this dude's not a killer who was going to rip her jaw off, because she came out of nowhere and just kissed him right on the nose. I was like, well, I guess he's got a solid temperament. He works like a machine. Let's get him.
Hell yeah. So I actually didn't know that story.
Yeah.
Of like, that's what this is genuine interest. I was like, how the fuck did you actually buy him? You know? But no, dude, that's awesome that he did well or whatever in that capacity, in that setting. I'm sure that wasn't prior trained. I mean, it's hard to get a busload of kids, so that's definitely not something that was prior trained. But so all right, now we're gonna slowly make our way back home base on the topic at hand. So you purchased Kimber, we got that. You know Lindsay, I know Lindsay. I'm gonna kind of speed through this part of the story because whatever. So y'all are having essentially some, not issues, but like, I think knowing you now, it was more of a, out of consideration for the dog. Like,
yeah,
how do I best benefit the dog as far as like releasing and stuff like that, and drive management or capping, if you will, for those that are familiar with that term. And so you reach back out to Lindsay, correct?
Yeah.
And then, which in turn, Lindsay probably lives about an hour and a half away from John. I live about 15 minutes away from where you're at. And I get a message from Lindsay saying, hey, man, do you want to do me a favor? Can you go and look at a dog that I sold down in Beaufort, South Carolina? It's in your area and all that. And so I look at that opportunity and I'm like, hell yes, because my environment at that current time, I was what the Marine Corps calls a drill instructor, basically a guy that bullies 18-year-olds.
If you've seen Full Metal Jacket, it's like that.
Yeah. Oh, God. We're in 2024, man. That might be too strong.
Yeah.
But
cancel.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, go watch it. If you're young, go watch it. And you want to join the Marine Corps, go watch it.
Hey, more power to you if you join after that.
It's mildly accurate. But anyways, so yeah, so I'm doing that, and that's consuming a lot of my time. And from the military perspective, like, I'm separated from working dogs for the military at that point, and training recruits and all that. It's like my mission in life for the military setting. So Lindsay hits me up, and I'm kind of like borderline like depressed or whatever, because that's what I live for, and dogs and dog people. But anyways, so Lindsay hits me up with this opportunity. He says, hey man, I got a guy that has a working dog for me. They want to do good by him, and do you mind taking a look at him and just seeing if you can help him out? That way you can save me a drive, which is, responsible. And I appreciated that, given our history and everything. He didn't have to reach out to me. And that's something I really valued, that he still made time for me and considered me a good trainer, even though we had our disagreements in training and prior to. So shout out to Lindsay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I show up. I have no idea where I'm going. I just go to a location. I'm like, all right, I'm here. I see Frank. I see what was her name? Ashton? Ashton?
Ashton, yeah.
Yeah, Ashton. So I walk into the facility. I don't know what's going on. I'm looking for Jon. I meet Frank, which is one of the investors for the company. And I'm assuming everybody in the facility knows how to train dogs. And so Frank's looking at me. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Jon's in the back doing an eval for a potential pet client. And I'm like, "Oh, I was sent here to look for Jon." And it's just like a random thing because Frank had no idea why I was there. And so I'm just standing there. I'm just like watching Ashton train her dogs, her bulldog, or I don't know if that's offensive for her.
Nah, it's a bully.
She's in the
It was either a bully or a pit bull at the time, like a real pit bull, not a. Yeah, no, you're good.
yeah.
You're good.
I don't. I'm slowly learning about breeds and all that, so I don't want to offend her. But we'll say it's a pit bull. I think she likes them more. So,
Yeah, she does.
yeah, okay, all right. It was a pit bull. There we go. So she's training that. I'm just watching. Like I have no pony in this race. I'm just sitting there watching, and I'm waiting to meet Jon. And I'm like, who the fuck is Jon? So, and I want to see the dog. Like I'm excited to work with the dog. Anyways, watch that for about 30, 40 minutes, and then Jon comes out. We talk a little bit. He asks about my experiences, stuff like that. I give him the rundown. I'm like, I'm just a military working dog trainer, whatever. I was down at Lackland and didn't mention the whole master trainer shit and all that. But so we get in a conversation, and mind you, this is around probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening when I finally talked to Jon. And then we ended up staying there until like almost 1 in the morning.
Yeah, it was late. That was a long night. You know what's funny on my end? So it's funny hearing it from your account, but while I'm doing the eval, like Lilia came back to me, Frank came back. They're like, hey, there's some guy standing up here watching the dog training saying he's looking for you. And I'm like, oh, this is the guy Lindsay must have told me about. Like, I'll be right up there.
Yeah.
And the whole time, everyone's like, come back. Like, hey, there's a guy up here? And I'm like, yeah, no, I was told. I was like, I'll be there in a minute. And it just seemed to be like eval after eval going on. And I finally made my way up. But like 5 different people came back and told me, they're like, he's just standing there watching. I didn't even see him with the dog.
Oh, God, there we go with that shit again. He has no dog. He doesn't know what he's doing. I love that philosophy, and I'm being so sarcastic.
I know.
I have to get a fucking puppy out of this shit. But I am excited. Like, Jon, oh God, man, so much to talk about. But I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be.
But yeah, so we ended up meeting up, and we talked, and he told me about Kimber, his history that we already talked about over this episode.
Yeah.
And so actually I didn't even look at, I saw Kimber, but I didn't get to assess him as far as like I physically saw him. And then I don't really remember what happened in between, but I do know we ended up pulling your dog, Apex, because it was a Wednesday because Beaver was there. So it was Beaver's I don't want to say well-known decoy. I would say underrated.
Almost like folklore. Like everyone knows a beaver. They may not have talked to him, but like they've seen him work or know somebody that's seen him work. Like I don't know. It's crazy. Beaver's out there, man. He's all over the place.
Okay, so we're going to reference Beaver a lot. So for those that are listening, and go back to the second episode, to hear about the origin story about that, and hopefully we can get him on the podcast. But yeah. Anyways, it had to have been a bite night because Beaver was there,
Yeah.
and bite night, like you mentioned, is every Wednesday at Low Country Canine in Beaufort. But so it kind of lined up, and so you pull out your dog Apex,
Yep.
and I'll go through my version of like what I saw and what I remember. So I'm watching, and I didn't even notice you because I'm just fixated. I'm like, all right, dogs, dogs, dogs. You know, like I'm back in it.
Yeah.
And so I see Apex, and as soon as you brought him around the corner, it's like to paint this scenario. It's kind of like not an alleyway, but like an open area. But it's dark outside at this point. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and
Yeah, like dim lit.
yeah, dim lit. That would be good. But anyways, and John brings this dog out. It's a German Shepherd, black and tan, German Shepherd. Great dog. And as soon as he turns the corner, I just hear like this screech and like all that, and I'm like, oh my god. And then and they're working on, I think we were working on outing him.
No, we were trying to cap him to get his attention. So he just had
no, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're trying to work him to get like just basically to sit and like stay in place while the decoy what do you call it? Decoy neutrality? Or whatever, secondary obedience. Some people reference it. We got to get a common language for everybody. But so at this point, we're essentially trying to get the dog to just sit and like focus on John, while the guy in the bite suit that Apex clearly wants, because he's leaking, he's vocalizing, he's expressing himself in like every other way. Corrections are happening. And I'm just watching it. I'm like, and I got hyped. I was like, I've seen this before. I know how to do this. I was like, they're just, you know, it's coming from Lackland. Like we deal with that consistently. And I'm like, oh, they're just not approximating, or they're not taking their time to reward the dog to show how to build up into those behaviors. So we have to hold ourselves accountable. Essentially what we just accused every owner of doing, like pushing the limits. That's essentially what I saw, and I'm guilty. I'm probably the worst of it, by the way. So don't.
We all do it, man.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's all I saw, is that they were, you know, pushing it a little bit further, and I'm not one to like step in on somebody's training. I don't care about my credentials and all that. Like, I just kind of watch. And then it got to a point I was like, can I make a suggestion? And I remember you and Beaver were like, yes, motherfucker. Like, we were waiting for you to say something. Like, yeah, you think we brought him out here just to do the same thing over and over? So I made like some suggestions on like when to reward the dog, essentially, like release him to bite to show him his advantage, and get to the, you know, the ideal behavior. Obviously we didn't get to it that night, but we saw from my end anyways, we saw, you know, a considerable amount of decrease in stress, and that was viewed or measured through like vocalization. Like the dog wasn't barking as much and leaking as much, and the dog actually ended up sitting and maintaining position for about like 3 seconds, which was successful in that training repetition. So I made that consideration, or that suggestion rather, and I think that's how I recall, like, you know, things were going pretty well. Like for me, I remember I was just worried about Beaver predominantly because my man's he was like 48 at the time.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, because he's 50. He's going to be 51. this
Yeah.
year. So he was about 48 at the time, maybe 49. And plethora of experience in decoying for dogs, um, in his own way interpreting dog behavior accurately and understanding how to react to that as a decoy. Um, and so I didn't want to cross, lines with that or overset my boundary because he's had a considerable amount of work with dogs, and much respect to him, man. Like, I still admire the man for doing that. I don't know what I'm going to be doing at 50, but
Hopefully not getting bit.
maybe it's letting dogs bite me. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah. So much
Occasionally.
admiration for that, and I didn't want to overstep my boundaries. But when I made that suggestion, and it was just out of sincere interest for like the dog, and then I always look at the person. I could see you were kind of stressed about the scenario, and all that, and then for me, and when I saw the improvement, and I saw you acknowledge like the very mild improvement, that lit a fire under me. I'm like, all right, so he knows how to see, dogs progress in mild forms. And I think that's what balances the mental side of the human aspect, because you have to celebrate those small victories. I know you heard me say that,
Yeah.
but that's a lot that goes into it. And then when Beaver was like, all right, I'll do it and all that. And then we put the dog up, the dog did well. And then we stayed and talked until about 1 a.m. On a Wednesday night. But
That's actually what cracks me up about that whole thing is, so Apex turned that corner screaming and expressing all that drive and like uncontrollable. And then I remember the three of us walking back into the building, and like we got all the equipment out, and I was like, hey, Place. And he hopped up on Place. He didn't get off. He laid there quiet. And we got bite suits. We got all his equipment. Everybody's running around. We're moving stuff. And you're just staring, and you're like, he'll lay on Place with all this going on. I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't he? You're like, so you got half the work done right there. I was like, I never thought about that. Like,
oh man, yeah, that shit had me. I was like, what the fuck is the problem? Like, how do you do that? It's not anything separate, but yeah, no, that was definitely a good time, man. Like,
yeah,
and so that's how our worlds kind of collided initially, and then so we moved on to doing more together as far as working with Apex. He's significantly better than when he was when we first met, and that's something I'm proud of. Like, and not on my own account, just working with you.
Yeah, we saw a lot of improvements across that time. A lot of funny moments happening in that training period.
Yeah, that's. I think we're thinking about the same thing about.
I'm thinking it's true. Either when I sent them on you, or that day we were experimenting, and we were like, "Hey, man, if something don't happen here soon, like,
all right,
we gotta call it."
No, we got to go on a tangent on that one. So essentially, I'm trying to, at this point, like, I'm doing some decoy work because Beaver, his main decoy, could only make it out once a week, and I'm like, that's not going to get it. So it's just for consistency purposes. So we change the variables up. We go back. I'm wearing a bite sleeve, like something just to cover my arm. And this is a
at that
strategy.
point you just had the pillow.
No,
You had sat it down and walked away.
No, it was the sleeve though.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It was the sleeve because I remember it was by the little concrete area across from the facility.
Yeah.
And this was. So this is more on me because any mistake that a person makes like this, I'm like, there's something I didn't communicate. And so that's one of the things I valued from going from Lackland, like coaching people and stuff. And so essentially I told him, I was like, hey man, you're going to reward with you like a toy from Jon. I'm going to hide the sleeve, like put it where he can't see it, the stimulus that's going to trigger him. And I was like, I'm just gonna stand out the, I'm gonna stand in front of the dog Apex, and you're gonna tell him to sit, whatever, and you're gonna reward him. Well, in my mind, I had done it so many times, repetitions in Lackland, that meant reward from yourself. And I didn't communicate. That's I'm going back through my head. I'm like, where did it get fucked up? So I didn't tell John. I'm like, you're gonna reward him with the toy. So all I said is, you're gonna reward him. And so naturally, John thinks, send him for a bite. What's reinforcing? The motherfucker wants to bite. Send him. So I have the protection equipment for those don't know bite work or whatever. The bite sleeve is out of my possession, like not on my body, and it's probably a good 4 or 5 feet away from me. And the dog can't even see the equipment, so it's not in between us or whatever. And Apex does well. He looks up, and I'm like, reward. And my man John said, pocket. I was like, what the fuck? And he just let him go.
I was like, damn, he's real confident he can get to that sleep pretty quick. I was like, I'm not going to question it.
Yeah, and Apex comes flying, and I run and grab the sleeve or whatever, and he takes it. I'm like, that's not what I meant. But I was like, we're okay, because even John looked at me. He was like, oh shit. Like, what did I just do? I just sent my dog on a guy with no equipment. And I mean, it worked out, but no, it was a good time, dude. Like, even if I had gotten bit, I would have interpreted it as my fault. Like, those are the lack of communication. That's definitely going to be a subject on coaching people. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Remember to communicate. Treat every time is the first time. Fuck it. When it comes to safety, I don't care how long I've known you. Every time's the first time, so you'll get the same spills and make sure we're communicating. But that's just how I went. As far as going forward with Apex and all that, and how we ended up training together, which is awesome.
It's funny because even in that story we just started with, right? So we're kind of all over the place, but we go back and we're like, oh yeah, how'd you meet Frank? Oh, I sold him this dog. Okay, cool. How did we meet Lindsay? Oh, I got this dog from. Oh, you trained dogs with him. And we start going down the rabbit hole. Okay, how did we meet? Oh, well, we started training Apex a bunch together. We were putting time in. But you can just trace, even Lindsay calling us is because a guy I had met years ago training dogs with him. And you just sit there and trace all that back. All those friendships formed over dog training your dogs. It really puts it full circle, because we talk about it all the time. Dogs bring us together. They bring everything back to it. You meet good people, good connections, and it sets you up for the next friendship or the next person. And you always kind of stay in contact with that person. You even said it. You and Lindsay didn't agree on something, but you didn't let that hinder, you two talking or getting things done. And you guys were able to respect each other more for it. But I think that's kind of what dog training is all about. It's the human aspect, which is funny because you talk to any dog trainer, myself included at one point, it's the part we want to deal with the least. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to deal with people. I just want to train the dogs. And over time, I think that kind of evolves to, hey, I think the human aspect is just as important, if not more important than the dog. Than the dog.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think that's the main contributor for, if you want to call it bad dog training and stuff, is the human aspect, like how you feel going into it, understanding how the dog is going to feel, and to a degree, putting yourself in the place of the dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's try to wrap things up. I know we were all over the place with that, and I don't know, it was fun. I don't care. But
it was a good time, man.
So full disclosure, we had a whole script we're trying to test out, and we're both looking at our phones trying to monitor the script. we're just still all over the place, but this is what the show is for, man. You know, it's just to have a good time. So, all right, let's get to kind of wrapping things up because we're pushing almost 1 a.m. But so we mentioned Lindsay, we
Yeah.
mentioned Kimber, and all that, the purchase and all that. Is that still available? Available, rather, like that industry as far as purchasing dogs.
So we do still have the occasional dog available. So we'll kind of do one-offs. Like there's probably 3 working dogs in the kennel right now, 4 dogs available for purchase.
Okay.
So that's something we still do. And if you need a dog or if you're looking for a dog, you can hit us up. Training for the dog, you can hit us up. It's not our primary thing. We get a ton of reps in and we have a good understanding of it. But it's, like I said, pet dogs are the bread and butter. But working dogs are what we're passionate about and really enjoy.
No, for sure. And you got Kimber from Lindsay, and that's Knockout.
Yep, knockout dog training. It's funny. I just thought about the other day. I've had one dog out of all of Lindsay's litters.
Mm-hmm.
So Jane came out of the first litter, Nike was the second, and Mona was the third. So definitely a good guy. He's always putting some good dogs on the ground. Very knowledgeable in his bloodlines and what he's breeding. I believe he's actually about to drop a really nice litter here soon. It's a Tommy Peggy daughter bred to a dog named Dio. So should be really nice. I've got a female out of that litter who's phenomenal. Really like her. She's 5 months old. It's Tommy Peggy daughter bred to a dog named Paco. So definitely some good dogs. Hit them up. Knockout dog training if you're looking for some Mal puppies.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna plug him in. Let's just do it. So I'm looking at his page. It's Knockout Dog Training _SC for South Carolina. That would probably be the best way to reach out to Lindsay for upcoming breedings and just view his work and what he's done. My man is taking this very seriously. Him and his brother, Latuan, are very. I hope that's his name. Twan. I know him as Twan. Anyways,
Yeah,
but they take it very seriously as far as like the research and backgrounds of the dogs and stuff like that. So please, if you're interested in getting some potential prospects, some potential working dogs, whatever, personal protection dogs, just again, I want to emphasize responsible ownership. These breedings are not pet dogs. These are working dogs that need to be stimulated, need to be worked with. Jonathan's going through it right now with his dog Mona off of their last breeding, and she's proving fairly well. But again, that's Knockout Dog Training _SC. And please just watch his work and hit him up. But let me see where we're at now. We got him plugged in. But yeah, that kind of condenses of how we got involved in as far as dog training, how we met up, and how we're making our worlds combine as far as for me, the military aspect of training and venturing out on my own on the pet dog training. But I know for working with you, I've trained several dogs under your company and under your mentorship, actually, especially when it comes to the electronic collar, which yeah, good times.
Yeah.
I don't say that sarcastically. I know that kind of came off as like shady, but no, it really was good times. It was a very big learning curve. This is one of the times you mentioned we were like, dude, I've never seen you like stuck on something. But I was just genuinely learning, and I appreciate you for that. But it's definitely been good working and blending the worlds as far as like understanding and stuff like that. We'll elaborate more on the training of Kimber and stuff like that and how that went. Actually, yeah, we never really touched about the issue that you called me for. Anyways, we'll condense it down. His issue was releasing a toy, essentially, and I think if you'll agree, one of the things that John saw me do was not use an aversive to get the dog to release initially, and condition the dog to release on its own terms, and want to interact with me and look to me for releasing and then interaction followed through. So everything was done on a leather collar that he had, with very few aversives until the time was appropriate. And that's how I addressed that issue. And I think that was probably one of the contributors to us continuing to train dogs and work together. But for me, that was a highlight for me, just knowing that the stuff that I learned at Lackland under certain mentorship actually transferred over to a civilian lifestyle and for a working dog, for what was his trajectory. Rest in peace, Kimber. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a hard one to lose.
Yeah, but to see all that work go into him and actually pan out was pretty good. But all right, you got any closing remarks, man? I'm gonna get out of here.
I think that kind of wraps it up. Kind of sums up the third episode, I think.
Okay.
I think we're good to go, man.
All right, let me try it out. I'm gonna try out our closer. My brother said that I fucking suck at closing out. So let's see. Well, that concludes another episode of Working Dogs and Whiskey. Oh, if you want to follow for visual content, please go to our Instagram and follow us at podcast.wdw. Again, that's podcast.wdw on Instagram. Remember, train your dogs before you drink whiskey, or do both. Don't give a fuck. But yeah, we'll work on the outro, I guess, or whatever that's called.
I like it.
Or
That's a good start.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to
whatever.
clip it. That's the one now. It's going to be for the rest of the podcast.
All right, let's do it.
All right, dude. So we can go ahead and wrap it up here, and we'll get the next topic going next week.
Hell yeah.
All right.